from Ruff. I run a company called Uncommon Elites. What I do is I put special operators in businesses. So a lot of ETA, community, private equity, meeting operators, GM, president. That's what I've done. My background, spent 10 years in the military. Half of that was with the 160th, which if you saw the guys fly the raids down in Venezuela, those are the dudes that I flew with. Been doing this for 4 years. Jon and I do a lot together. Jon, your turn.
Cool. I'm Jon Matzner. I run a company called Sagan. I see lots of my customers in here, which makes me happy.
Members.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. No, you can say customers or members, just not clients. If anybody read that book, don't say clients, lower multiples. Right. So we don't say clients. Members. Yeah, my name's Jon. I worked in the kind of national security world, living mostly in North Africa and the Middle East for the majority of my 20s and early 30s, doing counterterrorism stuff and weapons of mass proliferation, stopping, I should add that verb, very important verb, just stopping the spread of weapons of mass destruction. And then bought a small, difficult to run home improvement business, ran that for a few years, sold it, and then got good at hiring globally, directly, systems, ops, all that post-acquisition stuff where you can add a lot of value. Started Sagan a couple years ago with a co-founder, which is ripping. And so, yeah, excited to talk about what Christian and I take very, very seriously, both because of our backgrounds and our current job, which is hiring, leadership, management, and basically one theme that I think Christian and I share, which we want to tattoo on the forehead a lot of people that we work with. So I'll let Christian kind of intro us in, and then I actually got a piece of paper with my notes. So
good. I'll refer those notes too. But the theme is attributes over experience. So who here is familiar with Alpine? Right. Graham Weaver stole from him. He's got this graph that we don't have as a slide today, but basically his hypothesis that is that over time, a person with a higher attributes will beat out someone with higher initial experience. And so if you go to any of their home services platforms, what you'll see is all their general managers are former Marines, you're always a Marine. They're Marines, Green Berets, Navy SEALs, Delta Force, Air Force Special Operations, general military, that they plug into those GM positions, market president positions, basically all the way up the food chain. And it worked. It worked. They could take someone who had the attributes to win and lead and figure it out, and then put them in these home services companies. So I largely took that thesis and turned it into a business. But my familiarity background with the attributes over experience stems from my time in special operations. So everybody familiar with the Maduro raid in Venezuela and with the pilot that got shot. Okay. When the 160th pilot gets the Medal of Honor, got shot on the target, kept flying the aircraft. He's bleeding out in the back of the helicopter as they're exfilling from the target.
That means leaving.
Leaving.
Just
leaving.
Yeah, that means leaving. Yeah.
When he went and applied to the 160th, how good of a pilot do you think he was to get there? What's that? Must have, yeah. How skilled do you think he was when he showed up to be able to go do that years later at being a helicopter pilot?
Before he was a helicopter pilot? So
no, before he joined the 160th, which is
before he went and tried out for the special operations. Yeah, it's probably pretty shitty. And I was very shitty. I had a couple hundred hours. It's an organization, all I do is fly at night, and I've flown at night for like 40 hours, maybe. And yet somehow I outbeat everybody there who had 3,000 hours, 4,000 hours. Same with that guy. Because that organization believes in a core set of attributes that if you put them in that situation where they're going to get shot at over a target and they still have to fly the helicopter, they're still going to fly the helicopter. And you can see it through the assessment process. They'll bring 20, 30 guys in to assess over a week period. And you get to about Tuesday and you can smell the quitters. And you can smell the people who aren't going to make it. And how much time do you think you spend in an aircraft during that assessment? For the best helicopter pilots in the world, how long do you think you spend actually flying a helicopter? I had 2 minutes on the controls. Yeah, the instructor let me land the helicopter, and then he made fun of me for how soft of a landing it was. So that was the extent of the flying that I did. And so the way that I operate my business, and when customers come to me, and Jon, very similar, and what we're going to get into today, is that attributes will beat experience. Experience still matters. Like, there's certainly skill sets that are important that you need. Like, if you're hiring a HVAC install manager, you probably need somebody who has experience with HVAC. But when you put experience up against attributes and measure potential, attributes will win 9 times out of 10.
I want to give a commercial example that's very real, and I pulled it up on my phone. I promise I wasn't like texting while Christian was talking, because I took a screenshot because it was such a good example. Who here, either in their current business or moving forward, is thinking about AI? If you fucking don't raise your hand, I'm gonna. Is that the first fuck of SMBash, by the way? So.
First,
okay.
second.
First, second, it won't be the last. Okay. What attributes ultimately do, in my opinion, is create great decisions in a fast-moving environment, right? They create great decisions in a fast-moving environment. When Chris is looking at, do you think can Chris hire somebody for his company that has 6 years of stable experience pushing the ball forward with OpenClaw for a freaking accounting firm? Of course not. Nobody has that, right? So how do you hire into that need, right? So I'm going to read something from my long-suffering managing director, Vinci, who sent me over this weekend. She goes, does everybody know what a PRD is? It's a document you give a software developer to create something. She sends me this over the weekend. I had it, by the way, over the weekend. I had it generate like 5 PRDs today, and it made it into a thing I can deploy to Railway, so it's like an app. It helped me set up a Google Cloud project, so I am not a blocker for these PRDs too. I want to host my Sagan Claude on a VPS, which is a virtual machine. I can let it run overnight since the token reset happens. How many of you would like to have somebody like that in your companies? Vinci started with me for $3 an hour 9 years ago. She is not technical. She is a bundle of kick-ass fucking attributes, right? I don't need to tell her to play with Claude Code. I have to say, Vinci, go to fucking sleep, right? And that is the power and the promise, which is what I wanted to start this section with, of attributes-based hiring, because it comes at a cost, which we're going to talk about, the hard parts, the challenges. But every single person I know who's leaning into AI, there is not a resume bullet, right, that says is innovating with OpenClaw in a tree company. We're entering a chaotic environment, managing tariffs, managing pricing pressure, dynamic competitive strategy, right? Now, it comes at a cost, which we're going to talk about, right? But ultimately, that is the promise, is you can grab somebody who's maybe underrepresented, they don't have the resume, and you can put them against a problem, and they're going to freaking jump the F into it. So that's the promise to me, organizationally, of attributes-based hiring. So that's why what we're going to talk about, I think, matters. So the structure for the talk today, I think we're going to talk about 3 kind of takeaways that you guys can immediately apply, so you can leave this next week and say, okay, I believe you, attributes-based hiring, like, okay, what the heck do I do? So the first thing, Christian, how to find it. So what does the recruitment process look like to find attributes-based hires, to find Bincies, right? To find these folks. What does it look like, and what does it, importantly, not look like?
Generally, what I see work really well, and this ties in my past life and what I do now, is how realistically can you how can you fabricate the reality of the role and test the person inside of it? So how can you fabricate the reality of the role and test the person inside of that? And so how do you do that? Well, if I asked Rich, tell me about a time you had integrity, what is Rich going to tell me? He's going to tell me about a time that he had integrity, whether it's true or not. And I'm going to get the answer that I want to hear. Now, I know he's a high integrity person because I've spent a lot of time with him. So I'm going to hear the answer that I want to hear, not necessarily the answer that I need to hear. And so the game becomes, how do you create situations and scenarios to make them think on their feet? To make it like that shows you through their behaviors or how they think about things what's behind the words. So the way that we did it in the 160th is you have a week. You have a week-long assessment process. And it's absolutely miserable. And like I spoke about earlier, like it basically has nothing to do with flying. Like I flew in a helicopter for 3 hours. I touched the controls for about 2 minutes. I got made fun of, but it had absolutely nothing to do with the assessment overall. What it was opportunity to fail over and over and over and over and over again. It was a mesh of, there were some interview questions. There were behavioral assessments like disc profile, that type of thing. There's an aptitude test, but then it was mini case study where I was giving just a small amount of information, but expected to give a big briefing on how I would solve that small amount of information over and over and over again with no break. Now you can't do that with, you can't necessarily do that like in a commercial interview environment. I'm not gonna like take a GM and like bring him in the woods for a week and put him through a bunch of shit to see if he's the guy or not. But what you can do is case studies. Case studies are a great example. Take the biggest problem that this person is going to face, tell them nothing about it other than it's a problem, and then have them come to you with solutions. You're good.
Yeah, I want to build on. He said something that was really, really important, and then we can talk about actual like hiring mechanics, because the way we hire at Sagan, also included with our members, is based on this method. So the first thing that Christian said that I think is so important, and if anybody knows my background, hugely important, which we can talk separately, which is falsification. Does anybody know what falsification is? If you studied like epistemology, like theory of knowledge, it is very difficult for me to say Rich has high integrity. I can, because 99 times he shows it, and the 100th time he doesn't, I was like, shit, he didn't have it, right? It's the turkey who thinks he's safe, and then on the 365th day, it's Thanksgiving and he dies, right? The Nassim Taleb stuff, right? And his wrist charts look all good. He's like, I'm getting safer. And it's like, Thanksgiving, bitch, right? But falsification is, I'm going to create scenarios where I can affirmatively say this person does not have integrity. Falsification is a more robust form of knowledge. So you cannot, I don't care if you talk to him for 100 hours, you cannot say this guy's trustworthy. But you know what you can tell in 15 minutes? This person's not reliable because they were late to their first interview. Falsification is a more robust form of knowledge. So you're looking for perfect information. I don't know if my wife is reliable, and I've been married to her for 5 years. I know she's not unreliable, right? So as you guys are looking at hiring, you create scenarios where you're going to get a lot of data. Right? You put them on a clock, you put them in the woods, metaphorically speaking. You give them different scenarios and you hear them talk, and you can tell right away if they're a bad candidate. Very difficult to say this is a good candidate, right? So that was buried in what he said, but from experience, I can tell you, falsification, elimination is 100 times more valuable than validation. Does that make sense? Anything you want to say on that? But that's, you're like, oh, this guy's a shitbird, kick him out. And who's ever standing at the end, go ahead, Patrick.
That's a question about the case studies. Are you giving them like prep time? Like, hey, tomorrow's call, we're gonna go through a case study, or is it like on the fly? What are you doing?
Both. So like I'm the way I vet guys. So like I talk to candidates all day long, and sometimes I just know because I know their backgrounds, and I'm like, yeah, this dude's a killer, and sometimes I don't. And so the ones that I don't, like I'll think about the role that this person is interviewing for, and I'll think about the problems that they might encounter. And so I'll just like on the fly come up with a question. Like one that I like to use is, you got 6 direct reports. 2 direct reports are absolutely crushing it. 2 direct reports are like kind of like medium, just kind of like hanging on. And 2 are sucking the life and the energy out of the whole organization. What do you do? How many different ways can we answer that? You can say like, oh, I'm gonna go reprimand the guys who are not performing. Or you could say, oh, I'm going to go encourage the guys who are overperforming. Or you could say, I'm actually going to go to the guys who are highest performing and see if they can help out the dudes that are lowest performing. Or I'm going to put them on a PIP or whatever. It just gets, there's no right answer. Like everybody here could write down an answer and we could all argue to death that it's right or it's wrong. But I want to know how they think about it. Outside of that, like my favorites is to give them a case study, give them 2 days to prepare it, and then they have to come present it, and I ask questions about it. And then if you really want to get fucked up, you change the information like 2 hours before they present.
Well, so I want to build on that a little bit. One thing, which is, my simple answer would be, it depends on the job.
Okay.
Is this person an ops manager balancing, HVAC techs rapidly? Well, then it's all about, hey, start whatever, or is this person an accountant who cannot mess up line 43 and I'd rather them be slow and deliberate, so then I give it to them in advance. So I try to mimic the scenarios in which they'll be making decisions in general. I'll link it to a commercial example. So she's now a leader in our organization, but when I was recruiting Jermaine, my only application was for just like an assistant. And if you've read any of my stuff, I say hire apprentices, not assistants, which is a whole different thing. But the test project said, I'm planning a trip to Seattle. Please prepare something for me. And I sent it to 10 different potential assistants to me. The first 4 asked me 8 totally legitimate, but questions I didn't feel like dealing with. Out. 3 people sent me some garbage ChatGPT, this a couple of years ago. ChatGPT generated 1-paragraph answer. And Jermaine said, hey, I went to your website, saw you like Notion, so I built it in Notion. Here's 3 different things. Do you want me to just go ahead and book this? Which one do I think I want with the way I'm going to interact with my EA moving forward, right? So the ambiguity is actually part of the process, right? I have 6 questions. Do you like sitting in? I'm guessing you like aisle seats because you're a bigger dude who needs to lose some weight. That's what I want my EA saying to me, right? Not like asking me 17 questions. Like, yeah, these are fair, but that's not my relationship. So as you're looking at hiring in certain roles, how do you mimic, you're hiring somebody to go outbound. Like I'm interviewing them to see, can they get back on my schedule if I'm flaky? We do an interview and I don't follow up and I'm hiring for a sales role. The guy I just hired sent me a Loom on LinkedIn, a different channel. I'm like, Johnny Likey, right? He didn't give up and I hired him and he's freaking great. His name's Lake, he's from Kosovo. So the other thing I want to say, because we ripped this off Christian, which is, I'll just like very quickly, and I know this could be a whole talk on its own, but in terms of the application process, I think what we ripped off you, and you'll say this more articulately than me, which is like, what's success look like in 6 months? How will you know that they're successful? What attributes are required to be successful? And then how do I structure questions without telling them I'm looking for these attributes to get these attributes?
Yeah.
And I think we lifted that basically straight from a conversation you and I had.
Yeah, because I see all these like bullshit job descriptions. That
ChatGPT, do not send me your ChatGPT.
They're just like, oh yeah, responsibilities, like blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's great, but what do you want? What do you want in 12 months? Give me the 3 to 5 outcomes in 12 months that are going to make you say, fuck yeah, it's the best hire I've ever made. And then give me the 3 to 5 outcomes in 6 months that make you say, like, yeah, we're on track to this being, fuck yeah, the best hire I ever made. And then what are the 3 to 5 outcomes you want to see in 90 days that are like, okay, we're going to continue here, or we're going to go find a replacement.
And then how do you know, right? How you met, like, how do you know?
How do you measure it?
They will be able to determine the schedule independently on their own, like, perfect. And then in order to do that, okay, they're an accountant. The attributes would be attention to detail and, right? And then you interview against those attributes.
Yeah, because you want every attribute, right? Like I want somebody that has attitude, aptitude, tenacity, urgency, integrity. But really what matters the most for the role? For the 160th was integrity. In the application process, you have this huge fucking application you got to fill out, and it gives you like 10 spots, and you have to rank 20 attributes. If you don't put integrity as number 1, you never get past the application phase. They don't tell you that. The 2 times I've seen guys kicked out of the organization were for integrity violations, not anything else.
Same in my old organization too. If you can't trust somebody, next day they walk you out. Yeah. You could lose $1 million, they don't care.
But to John's point, like thinking, yes, attributes matter, but what attributes matter the most to the outcomes that you want?
So generally speaking, I'll tell you, and then let's move on to kind of pillar 2. Which is, generally speaking, I beat this drum ad nauseum. Our entire company was built off the back of smart, hungry, coachable. I think every organization needs hundreds of smart, hungry, coachable, right? Obviously, you need somebody who's GAP certified to close the books, right? But my entire organization does not have recruitment experience, does not have AI experience, because if they're smart, they're going to keep the F up when I'm like, yo, go watch some YouTube videos and come back with how we're going to leave Notion to this new thing we're hosting on GitHub that plays nice with AI agents. If they're not smart, they're not going to understand any of the words I just said. If they're not hungry, which is another word for energetic, they don't have that motor, you can't kick somebody out the door, right? If you need to be like, hey, like you want somebody who's like, you have to rein them in. You don't want somebody who's like, hey, just want to check, like your mouse wasn't moving and you weren't green on Slack. I don't have time for that. And coachable is, as they mess up, you're like, hey, can I give you some feedback? You launched that a little bit premature. We got to check our outputs before we send stuff to customers. All right, I'll let you go get them, right? Slap them on the ass, right? So if they're coachable and they take that, now, dude, I can invade a country with Smart, Hungry, Coachable. I can teach them anything. Hey, go to school. Hey, go get some training on, hey, I want you to go take these classes in HubSpot. Let's see, I think we can do this all with APIs and just have one seat because those bastards are seat-based pricing. Hey, go figure out if we can do it. Smart, Hungry, Coachable, right? So we built our entire organization off Smart, Hungry, Coachable.
There are guys that I talk to every day that I'm just like, shit, I should just come up with some business idea because I could put these 3 people against something and they'll go fucking crush it.
Yeah, they'll go figure it out.
They'll go figure it out.
And again, I'm not talking like a back-end security developer. There are obviously specific roles where it's skill-based, but 95% of you guys are running organizations or will be buying organizations where attributes, utility wrenches, right? I can put them, oh, you're going to go run my CSR team. Oh, you're going to go run my CRM integration. Oh, you're going to go stand up a new broker channel for referral partnerships. Oh, we're going to, right? I flood my organization with folks like that because they become leaders. They become individual contributors, right? Mm-hmm. You can just throw stuff at them and they're like, got it. Yeah, no problem. When you need it, right? So that's what I'm always trying to do. Okay.
It's a good segue. So I haven't
do you have to tape this to your leg?
No.
Isn't that a pilot joke? No. Okay.
On the deck, I'm just right over the wall.
Okay.
So I've been doing this executive recruiting thing for about 18 months now. Done 95 placements. One of them's had industry experience.
So pause. 95 placements at billion-dollar private equity companies, holding companies, whatever. One has industry experience.
Why do you think they can do that? Why do you think they can do that? Why do you think they can take that risk? Gets into our next point. Yeah, they train.
They train.
They train. And so the second pillar of this, so you find the attributes and then you train. So that's why they can take, like, we'll come back to the 160th. Our onboarding process is, we technically have 2 onboarding processes. Who wants to take a guess at how long it is? 18 months. 48 months.
4 years.
4 years. 4 years. Now that's, I mean, we can't do that, right? The first 12 months from the day you show up to the day that you go to the actual unit to fly, every day is scripted. You know exactly what you're going to do every day, and more importantly, you know what the expectation for that day is. Now, do you have 12 months to do that? No, but could you do it for 90 days? Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Or can they start running calls and they're only a level 1 certified account executive? Yeah.
So
and level 2 certified is going to take, but they can make money, they can pay for them, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you can only do unclogging sync calls. You're not level 2 yet. You got to pass your level 2.
Yeah. So that first 12 months, at the end of the 12 months, they have a 95% success rate at shitting out a pilot that you can put on the right seat of an aircraft in a combat environment with tier 1 dudes in the back, and they'll be fine. They'll be able to keep up, fly, manage the systems and all that. And they can do that because that first 12-month period is scripted. There's expectations for every day, and there's a clear expectation for what right looks like at the end. That 5% that doesn't make it, they get peered out. It's never usually a performance thing. It's usually like an integrity personality thing. The rest of those guys, like, they show up at the end of 12 months. Like, I finished my 12 months, and two weeks later, I went to Africa on my first deployment.
Now, I'm going to talk about why this is hard, because I see this every day, because we do tons and tons of hires every month, and I see mistakes being made. Why this is hard, but I mean, I'll give some specific commercial examples of this. But the reason this is hard, because in most small businesses, subscale, right, you have an enormous amount of demands on your time. Right? Yeah, John, I get it. I was at your talk at SMBash, but I need somebody who can run calls tomorrow. Right? I need somebody, dude, I don't have the ability, I don't have the time to, yeah, this is great. I run a small business, right? I don't have time to have somebody who can't hit the ground running. I don't have time to develop a day-by-day onboarding plan for the first 90 days at Bloometry. I don't have time, man. I don't have time. And that's the challenge here, right? Is everybody says, oh, I totally get it. Anybody can learn Salesforce, but I need somebody right now who can use Salesforce. And what that does, in my opinion, is it very much restricts your talent pool. And it's kind of like what Rich is going to talk about. It's almost like the sugar high of paid media, which is you're going to get a guy who can run calls for 7 weeks, and then you're going to make a change, and he's like, I don't use the iPad, Rich. Sorry. And then you're going to go through another hiring cycle. And then 2 weeks later, you're going to hire a sales guy who was experienced in trees because you just needed somebody right now because it's the busy season and we need somebody right now. I need somebody who can run client calls right now. And 3 weeks later, when it's like, hey guys, we're moving off of QuickBooks Online to this new ERP, and they're going to be like, they break. And then you're going to go back and you're just going to basically bang up against an organizational ceiling forever. So at some point you have to make the decision that I need to balance. Yeah, dude, don't default on your debt. You got to make payroll. But at some point you have to say, I need to get effing serious about this. I can be very specific in our organization because I try to practice what we preach. But you guys from a commercial environment, what this looks like commercially, I'll give a couple specific examples. We have a executive. His name's Brian Wilson. Some of you guys have seen his name. He runs our training department. He makes a ton of money. He was a former Marine. He's based in Dallas. All he does is run our training so that we can become a learning organization. So he runs debriefs when we mess something up. He runs a hot wash. Hey guys, what happened? Why'd we miss that? We update our training so that we don't make that mistake again. And the big thing he's been doing right now, which is awesome, this is like my favorite thing in the world, we hired a bunch of actors to do role playing with our team. They're $30 an hour. He uses AI to write scenarios. And so we run for our recruiters training that's called, overly picky member, because we run into it every day. And they run live and they'll get 10 or 20 reps with an actor who's got a script saying, yeah, I was really hoping that this person could make cold calls and do my bookkeeping, which is a request we get. And our recruiters get to run against an actor. And then we take that and we go, all right, Patrick, how'd that feel going up against that actor? And he's like, oh, I was really That's what learning looks like. Do you guys think that when they run into that with a real customer at a private equity company, do you think that they're going to be better prepared because they ran through 30 scenarios of dealing with a picky person? Hell yeah, right? So that's a very clear example of where training seriousness, to me, it's elevated our entire company. And it's expensive and it takes a lot of time. But at the end of the day, they close one extra hire a month because they know how to deal with an overly picky member. Pays for itself. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It also lets me hire people not out of recruiting, which I don't like hiring. Our best recruiter right now is an SDR in his last role because he's not precious. Because he came in, he pressed the I believe button on our system, and we taught him everything he knows. And he's just a blank slate. It's like, Rich is going to give a great talk about this, but Rich in the Marine Corps, right? It's like right way, wrong way, Marine Corps way. It's like right way, wrong way, Sagan way. It is not the way you did. No, I'm not giving you a LinkedIn recruiter account. That's not what we do here. We do it completely differently. So to get to that next level, I need like moldable clay that's smart, hungry, coachable, come into the system, get mentored, get assigned an onboarding buddy, run training scenarios over and over. They finally learn how we talk about stuff, right? And then you cut them loose and they go like this. Versus, I need a recruiter right now. Arr!
It's easy for me to sit here and talk about how we had all these resources to train guys for 48 months to get them to the point that they wanted to. The reality is like those first 12 months are pretty well preserved, but then when you actually get to the unit, the next 36 months, I was supposed to do additional training. I went to Africa instead. But what remained was the expectation. What remained was the expectation that I had to go hit this point in 36 months, and I had to hit this point in 35 and 34 and 33, and all the way back to zero. and it was laid out in front of me on paper of here are my expectations. So it was on them to like set me up for success and give me the training, but it was also on me to have the initiative to actually go and do it, because what I was trying to accomplish over 36 months was actually optional for officers. It was just kind of like an extra bonus. So when I see organizations that they just like, all right, we don't have time to train, I don't have time to help you, you just got to go do it. That's fine, and that's reality for a lot of small businesses. But if you don't frame it up with what the expectation is, you'll never harness the true power of those attributes if that's the approach you're taking.
So I want to transition to the third power, so we have some time, third pillar, so we have some time for questions. But I wanted to, I forgot what I was going to say. I had to write things down as you're talking, because Christian has a lot of good stuff to say about onboarding, about plugging. What I was going to say. Fantastic way to do this, guys, that'll give you some great ideas. If you have the ability to do it, especially in a fully remote company, because there's a lot of digital exhaust, but there are others as well, which is take a lot of the workflows, plug your Claude code into Slack, call recordings, email chains, and say, what would an 18-month training pipeline to get a full charge accountant at my firm look like? What are some good monthly goals? And it'll give you, it won't be perfect, but it'll give you some really good ideas about like, to become a fully stamped recruiter at Sagan, what are some great crawl, walk, run steps? And AI can do a lot of the lifting for you and say like, by the end of this month, you should be able to onboard a new client, offboard a client, whatever. By the end of this month, you should be able to independently run onboarding calls, right? And it'll give you a really nice progression. And you don't have to sit there with a blank piece of paper being like, how the hell do you build an onboarding or training plan, right? Yeah, so AI is a hack on that for sure. It can give you a lot of ideas. Just feed it stuff. And we're doing this, we're actually doing it with David and those guys. Even I would say, if you have a deal under LOI, we've been building these post-acquisition talent maps for people. We do it with Matthias too. You guys can actually take SIMs that you guys are looking at and feed them into Claude and say, you know, what are the key roles and what's some way to start building some pipeline and training objectives around what the key roles on this company that I'm about to acquire. So you can even start doing that stuff before you acquire, right? We don't use Claude, we use some other stuff, but you can, all that data is rich, right? What are the key 3 points of performance for a full charge biz dev guy at Pioneer? Claude will know if you feed it enough data, for sure. So, okay, I want to transition to the third thing, which I actually think is the hardest one. It's on the dashboard. You want to intro it?
Yeah, so we talked about finding it, training it, and then setting it free. So setting it free. What is setting it free? Setting free an attributes-based organization. And one of my mentors has taught me this, is what it took to get you here is not what it takes to get you there. And when you start buying a business and you start running a business, you are going to be up somebody's butt because you don't have the cash flow, you don't have the expertise. If you buy a company and think you're going to like stick it in the GM hands who's making 85 grand a year, bless you, child, right? I've bought and built. That's not what it's going to look like, right? Everybody here who's done at Chase, like Chase is going to be running. We do marketing closeouts because of your talk a few years ago. So I owe Chase, thank you. Yeah. Monthly marketing closeouts. Great idea, ask Chase. He wrote a great newsletter about it. In the beginning, you are, especially with AI, it makes it even worse. You know, I can plug AI into every email my company sends and receives every day and query it. Every day. And I could be like, hey, CoStub, why'd you say this in this email? I have a 100-person organization. What do you think that does to the kinds of people that are smart, hungry, coachable, ambitious? They fucking hate it, right? Now, in the beginning, all right, you got to be in there, but once you've gotten this, you've got a training pipeline, you've got clear expectations, you need to give them freedom, including freedom to make mistakes. You literally see them making a mistake, and you're like, they got to let it play out. So setting it free is you as a leader creating an environment of high performance, cultures, expectations, end states, goals, and saying, I'm going to go let my new GM realize that you need to send the schedule to the crews by 6 a.m. Let them learn.
Is that going to put me out of business if it goes out an hour late and he's going to be stressed out? It's better that they learn because they're smart, they're hungry, they're coachable, rather than me at 5 a.m. in the morning calling them saying, hey, why isn't the schedule out? So you got to set an attributes-based organization free in order to get a lot of those benefits. This is one of my favorite Christian stories. Like, because all you guys get too many emails. That's a whole nother talk. But Christian, talk about, what was it, your commanding officer and you guys going, like, I think you did a deployment to Limonier, or I don't know what it was. How many emails did you exchange with your, talk about what your mission was.
Yeah, so.
It's like one of my favorite Christian little factoids.
I'll give a couple examples. So I showed up after the training in the organization and I deployed in the first 2 weeks to go to Africa with SEAL Team 6 to go do stuff off of the coast of Yemen. I had not met my boss at that point. All I got was a phone call on a Friday while my girlfriend, now wife, was moving in, and we had just gotten a dog. And he's like, "You're leaving on Monday." And I was like, "For where?" And he said, "I can't tell you. You have to come in." And so I came in, and then disappeared. And for 6 months, I still haven't met this guy. But he made it very clear of what he expected from me. And then, how many times do you think we exchanged correspondence in those first 6 months?
1,000 times.
None. Fucking none.
Zero.
I came back, he came back, he went to Afghanistan, I came back, I went to Iraq, came back, and then like we finally linked up, and he's like, "Oh, you didn't fuck things up too much." And I was like, "Okay."
Right, and you're sitting here running a $2 million landscaping company saying, I get 100 emails a day, I don't have time to build a training pipeline. And these guys are flying SEAL Team 6 in, I'll show off for Christian, SEAL Team 6 in at night, landing a skid on the front, letting them jump off, do stuff, come back on, and his boss is like, "You got it, you're well trained. Let me know if you need anything." And you're running a landscaping company and you can't get out of your email inbox. You're stuck to Slack because you gotta, what, you think if he would have messed up, his boss wouldn't have been fired? Of course he would have been. There'd be a congressional investigation if Christian messes up, right? So it's a mindset of, if you're well trained, if you have people with great attributes, you let them do their dang job. Now, you guys aren't doing that because you don't have the training culture. You're not hiring for attributes. You're like, I can't set Bob free. Bob doesn't, yeah, because you're not training him. I got to check those emails before they go out. That's a big account, right? So, but this is what the end state that we're chasing looks like is, yeah, man, go drive SEAL Team 6 around. Let me know if you need anything.
My last deployment, I was walking into a yoga class on New Year's Eve at 7 o'clock in the morning, and my phone blew up, and we got the text message that it was like time to go, which means just like get to the compound and get out of it. Get to the compound and get out. 7 o'clock in the morning, get the text message. By 7 o'clock in the morning, Iraq time the next day, we've got like 5 C-17s with aircraft loading up on the ramp to go get ready to do a hostage rescue, embassy evacuation, basically like name all your different mission sets, and we're getting the aircraft ready to go. From the time that we got the text message to the time that got executed, the only question within the team that got asked was, who's getting the bourbon? Because we had such a finite way of doing things, and the expectations were so clear that we could just show up and execute when it was time to execute. Now, that's 40 years of iterating. And that's 40 years of every single time you do that, you come back and say, what went well, what didn't go well, how do we not do that again? And I fucked something up huge that day that, of course, like put the officer on this. I loaded the aircraft an inch too far to the left onto the C-17, so then we had to pull all the aircraft out and then put them all back on it again. Like that was my mistake. Like, let an officer do that. But every single time, if you can set an expectation, at least set a baseline way of training, you have something to debrief and you have something to improve on. And so the whole, like, to sum up my perspective on all of this is, if you take the right attributes, you put them against the right training, and you give them the freedom to make mistakes, but you debrief and hold them accountable to doing it the next time, you will continuously iterate yourself into a better organization.
I'll give an example. My team kicked me out of Airtable. I kept breaking stuff because the organization had moved past me. And in the beginning, I created the Airtable account, right? Our database backend. I built all, now we're in a totally different backend now that's way over my head. And they said, Jon, I love you. We love you so much. You're the boss. You're the co-founder. Get the fuck out of Airtable. You're confusing everybody. At a certain point, the organization starts saying, we got it, boss. I got it. We understand. Yeah, we're not upgrading to enterprise. I get it. So we're going to, right? And they, at a certain point, it's like, sir, nobody can find you. Stay here. We'll load the helicopters. We'll let you know if you need anything. Once you've hit a certain point, you have to have that discipline as a leader. So for you guys that are either acquiring stuff or running stuff, you have to understand what phase of development in your organization you are. Because some of you, you're like, Jon, I love it. That was a great talk. I'm so inspired. But somebody who works for me is going to F up tomorrow. And I think what we're talking about here is what you're chasing, right? Where you're trying to get to directionally. And so as you're making a decision, do I take somebody who's a little more raw, who's a little more smart, hungry, coachable, who loves tech, who whatever, or do I take somebody who can deliver on day one? And if you have the ability to go with that person who's a little bit more attributes rich, please do. Like, please do. I want to make sure that we at least give a few minutes because I'm, as somebody who's a wonderful example of this. Rich Jordan, Marine, was an instructor in the Marine Corps who runs, if you don't know Rich, he's going to give a talk, but started with a small company and is now at, I don't know what your run rate is, but it's massive. Rich, how do you think about attributes-based hiring in something like home services or trades?
Like you said,
depends on the role. Yeah.
The scope of the role is too broad, right? So, like you said, I need you to make cold calls and bookkeeping and run HVAC calls. There's no one on the planet. Christian and I run Strong Point Town now, which is like online. Try to find something against it. But like for like we hired or I recruited and hired a branch manager last summer for ourselves, and took a guy who was an Army infantry officer, so again, like sort of like an indication that look past the Army side of it, and no home service experience. I'm gonna need him to run a branch, greenfield, to start from zero, like tough growing, small staff, and brought him on site on Monday. He was gonna spend 4 days with us, and basically gave him like a 2-page brief, a 5-paragraph order, and said, in 6 months you have to launch a greenfield in Southern Maine. Basically, like, build your plan. What staff do you need? What resources do you need? Like, build like the kind of like the DOA and M on the Gantt chart on how we're going to get there. Basically, do it soup to nuts, so brief on their staff. And you have access to anyone in the business, ask questions to anybody in the business. And he did it. And frankly, like his plan on Thursday wasn't great. But I didn't really care about the product. I cared about like I watched them all week how he interacted with that all week. He did a great job hiring him.
That's the case study example. That's like perfect textbook case study example. Give them something they know nothing about, what's going to be the problem that they face, and go into it with the mindset of like, he's probably not going to give me the right answer.
It's okay.
But how he thinks about it, and how he approaches it, and the questions he asks, like that's textbook.
And I put his plan looking good, so I cut for good.
Great. Yeah. And because he's coachable, because he has a good attribute, he shows up with a notebook, takes notes about, okay, we don't do, okay, right? You don't have to tell him that, right? The last thing I was going to say before questions is, and it's what I'm probably spending 50% of my time on leadership and training development and 50% of my time on AI, right? We're building a ton of AI for internally as well as externally for our customers now. This is 100x more important with the dynamic nature of what AI is going to inject into all of our businesses. It is 100. Do you really think you want to hire somebody who's not that good with tech but has 6 years HubSpot experience. And then when you switch to an AI for, you have a company knowledge graph in Obsidian, which is a bunch of FlatMD files, and you're hosting Claude skills on a VPN, and they go, yeah, but HubSpot. Or do you think you want to find somebody who's going to wade into that and be like, got it, boss, let's go. What the heck does VPS stand for? I watched some YouTube videos last night. I put it in Notebook LM. I've been teaching myself how, offsite servers, right? That's how you wade into this category that we're all entering, is with people with the right attributes, and it's going to bring it even more into focus in the coming years. The people that are going to win are people who've got these awesome attributes-based people who are anti-fragile. Chaos? Let's go. Sounds like we're going to make some money. Not, they changed the way QuickBooks Online works. I used to have a way I could see all the suspense reports in one view. It's like, bro, QuickBooks has got an API. Let's go. It's got an MCP server. What are we doing differently? How are we pushing the ball forward for our clients? So I want to end it on a very timely current note, which is this is 100x more hypercharged because of the environment that us as small and medium-sized business owners are entering in. You cannot get these fragile, small, skill-based people that look good on a resume. You want a guy who was a GM at a restaurant, who's good at dealing with stress, who built a tool on the weekend for fun, and his dream is to one day have a Claude Max account so he can have more tokens. That's who I'm hiring right now. I'm hiring them by the fucking dozen. I'm not hiring a guy who's like, oh, I'm a Zapier consultant. Attributes. All attributes. Did you want to wind up before we do questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Did you want to add something or a question? Okay, let's do, yeah. And if you want one of us to answer, I will just automatically barge in because I like the sound of my own voice. So if you want Christian to answer, please say Christian.
Great. I'm okay with you.
Okay, all right.
Go
My
for it.
question is, you're trying to hire these people as attributes, right?
Yep.
So then how are you drafting the job description? I know we talked a little bit about that, of what do you actually want in a job description, but how do you get that person that is the GM that probably they might be like, I apply for this job, they're never going to hire me.
Yeah.
Right? So that's probably a big
Yeah.
problem. Is some of these people with great attributes, they don't have it, so then they don't look to.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Source them. Okay.
Yeah. You want to answer or me too?
You gotta go hunt, man.
He says hunt. I say I write job descriptions like sales copy. Again, you guys are too busy, so you go to ChatGPT and say, give me a job, you think you're being clever, and then you send me that, and I'm like, this is vomit, right? Must be, I write them like sales copy. I don't care if you're a restaurant manager. I don't care if you've never worked in a freaking tree company ever. I care that you're smart, hungry, and coachable. I encourage you to imply, show me you care. Link below. Write a letter to that guy who's saying, I'm sure you're seeing, right? You send me a cut and pasted cover letter from ChatGPT. We notice. Show me you care. Show me you want that role. Open to anybody of any background. That's how I do it. Why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is. Right? Why do I write like that? Because the right kinds of people, the best sales guy I ever got, anybody who's met Renee Ofjus, who I used to work with, who crushed, right? Incredible dude. I wrote, what are we selling? Literally, I wrote, what are we selling? Who gives a shit? This role is for somebody who wants to make a lot of money, who's going to be an organization that's going to take care of you. I'll teach you what you need to know. I'll encourage to apply. And he literally emailed me. He's like, dude, I'm in. I don't even know what the company is. The guy's incredible. The guy was a personal trainer before. So I'm writing I'm putting a very specific piece of bait to catch that type of person. It is not join a fast-growing off-market deal sourcing platform with room to grow. Experience in M&A. I mean, if you need that, fine. But if you want to get somebody who's a little
I'm doing arguably the largest search I've done yet, and it's a CEO search for a big platform. I don't have a job description, and I'm not going to get a job description. and I found the ideal candidate. I was like, yeah, this is the fucking guy, but he wasn't quite sure he wanted to leave or not. And the guy who's engaging this search with me is like, don't worry, man, I'm the best salesperson you'll ever meet. And I'm like, right on. It's all sales.
Yeah. So that's what I do is do not just put it into ChatGPT and hit enter. Please, I'm begging you, because you're going to get people who respond with ChatGPT and enter. 3 minutes? Okay. Or 3 questions or 3 minutes? 3 minutes. Okay. Patrick.
Curious, I'm really struggling to hire in our accounting firm onboarding people, and they have to have like really good accounting jobs because they're cleaning up the new messy clients that come in.
Yep.
And my existing team members that I really want to move it, they're all like, no, we know how
Yep.
hard that job is. We don't want it.
Yep.
And then with new people, I'm trying to interview like, do you like consistent chaos and like,
Yeah.
do you like cleaning up the mess? They really don't. Accountants want
Yeah.
the same client every month.
Yep.
They want to do it. So I'm like, I'm struggling.
I'd write it like sales copy.
And I have a Vinci like you. And
Yeah.
I've been through like 8 other people that aren't
Yeah.
other Vinci. And so I'm like.
So what I would do is I would definitely, like my dad would, the way my old organization, I don't know if, and others, which is you have to sex it up a little bit. The way they got people to go serve in Africa for 3 years is they were like, that's where the real work happens. It's also where like you get freaking dengue fever in Cote d'Ivoire. Like, so they sex it up a little bit, right? So you don't say onboarding coordinator, you say, SWAT, needed SWAT team member. We're standing up a SWAT team that is only for, for me, because I'm a sales guy, is I'd sex it up, man. Is I'd be like, these are the people who are the hard chart, they make big money and they deal with big problems. And if it was me, I would not be like onboarding lead must be, because you're going to get, so I would look for somebody who's like an accountant who hates accounting, but knows, like, I would try to sex it up. That's what I do. Because sex sells, baby. Jack.
So you guys have all been through high rapid growth cycles in your businesses. How are you generating training for stuff that you probably don't understand?
Yeah. I know we're tight on time, so I'm just going to give a very short, punchy answer, and then you can too. I was never in the military. I worked alongside the military for a long time. The strength of the U.S. military is senior NCOs. It's not the officers. It's not the white guys in the States. And it's not the $1,000 a month person in the Philippines. It's your senior Philippines person. So you have to establish a senior middle manager cadre. I don't build training anymore. They do. Yeah. And those are people who've been with me for 3, 4, 5 years. And I'm like, hey, Bincy, we need a new outbound cold calling team. And it's not, by the way, it's not just Bincy. My job is actually to develop and mentor that level of leadership. And then they're the ones who crack the whip on culture with hey, this is not like those other jobs. This isn't a BPO. We don't clock in, but if you don't get the job done on time, they're the ones who are now the culture carriers down to that working level in a fast growing organization. So I spend almost all my time developing my senior global leaders, not the white guys with the suits and not the $1,000 a month people who we churn through quickly because you're like, yeah, that person sucks. Right? We'll hire 3, fire 2, but it's the people who are Bincy and that equivalent who are going to carry the culture into that next generation of leaders. Is that senior NCOs?
That's it.
It's basically senior NCOs.
Yep.
I stole that from the military. We'll stick around in the back if anybody wants to talk.